But let's talk about the teams that were scouting this week, if you will. The Jazz, the Suns, the Clippers, and the Lakers. The four teams that the Knicks will be playing coming up. I mean, we can go in order. I want to start by talking about the Jazz. So Utah has lost 5 of their last 6 and 9 of their last 12. They've had guys in and out: Clarkson, Olynyk, Kessler, and of course Lauri Markkanen have all missed some time. Lauri will probably still be out this week. Clarkson is back, but hasn't played particularly well. So if you know me, you know that I pay a weird amount of attention to the Utah Jazz considering how bad they are. Because I am a huge Lauri Markkanen fan, I just think he has a tremendous additive effect and takes almost nothing away from his teammates. He is the rare player, in my opinion, who can give you star level impact and on some nights superstar level impact while not taking anything away from a primary ball handler or an alpha scorer, which is an incredible skill. I think that is extremely rare in the NBA. But Lauri's missed the last 8 games. And if you want any more argument for his impact, if we want to take impact metrics out of it, we can just look at the fact that the Jazz are plus 12.5 points better with Lauri on the court, which is 92nd percentile in the NBA, including 9.4 points on offense. Not only that, they literally do everything better when he is on the court on both sides of the ball, besides defensive rebounding, which, it's about the same. So they're about neutral on defensive rebounding, and literally everything else that matters in the game of basketball, they do better when Lauri Markkanen is on the court. So that is just incredible. Besides Lauri, the rest of this team is bad. They essentially have, in my opinion, a team of just one-way players. So, Sexton, Olynyk, Clarkson, Collins, strictly offensive players who get absolutely roasted on defense. Taylor Horton-Tucker, Chris Dunn, Agbaji, solid defenders who pretty much can't do anything on the offensive end. I mean, THT has glimpses of creation, but he is such a low efficiency scorer that I can't possibly imagine that he can have a positive impact on the offense. And the last thing I want to say about the Jazz is I just want to specifically point out Walker Kessler. So Walker Kessler was one of the best rim protectors in the NBA last year as a rookie, which is incredible. But the first 15 games have not been kind to Walker Kessler. He's been off to an awful start. I have heard some about him talking about feeling a lot of pressure and expectations. He injured his elbow back in early-ish November. And, he hasn't been able to finish. His rim protection has been okay, but not near last year's level. And I don't know what happened to him on Team USA, but I do want to say Kessler and Jaren Jackson seem to have had all their skills drained from them from Team USA. I'm not sure how that happened. Although I will say Jaren Jackson started to turn it around. He did hit 6 of 10 threes the other night and dropped 41 against Dallas in a loss. But yeah, overall, this is a bad Jazz squad. I know they're trying to develop their young guys like Keontae George, but they're just not going anywhere this year. So what are your thoughts on the Jazz?
So first of all, I'm here to erase any pro Taylor Horton-Tucker propaganda. We're not doing that. This isn't the Lakers television network. This isn't ESPN when the Lakers are playing the Knicks and they're trying to hype up young players while ignoring all the Knicks young players. This is a good analytical podcast, and Taylor Horton-Tucker has been bad his whole career. He's just not good. So no,
I will say, like I said, I watch a lot of Jazz, and there are moments when you're like, oh shit, he's kind of taken over, but they're very few and far between. But you're right.
Just admitting you've had multiple strokes watching Jazz games. I refuse to believe that these glimpses exist. This is total Taylor Horton-Tucker erasure. One player that I would like to talk about who I feel I personally owe an apology to is Colin Sexton. I think that Sexton has been one of the rare bright spots off the bench for the Jazz this season. He's not hitting any threes, but I do think just his overall initiation has been helpful to them. I think that if he starts to play more, the Jazz will inch closer to competency. I just think that he is pretty much their only chance at running a competent offense right now, even with Lauri Markkanen. And I love Lauri Markkanen. I just think that Markkanen is at his best when he can be that additive piece rather than the creator. He's definitely like, you're the biggest Lauri Markkanen fan in the world. I think you can agree with me that he's not much of a passer. He's not, when he's initiating, he's looking to score, and as he should. He's an elite shooter. He's very, very good at taking the ball and putting it in that little circle. Like that's what he does well. And because he does it so well, when he doesn't have the ball in his hands, he still gets that attention, and that should help other players on his team. I think that Colin Sexton would benefit from that. I think that they'd actually be a pretty solid duo. Sexton is still pretty young. He's only 25 years old. I would be interested in a Jazz team playing him with Keontae George. I really like George as a prospect. If any of you follow Prez on Twitter, which you should, he's very good at draft analysis and just breaking down prospects like that. He's very high on Keontae George, so I've been paying attention to him. Look, George hasn't come in and been a super impactful NBA player right away. Very few rookies are, especially taken where he's taken. But to steal what XJ said about Talen Horton-Tucker and apply it to someone it actually applies to, Keontae George has shown flashes of an impactful NBA player. I really like George. And John Collins, I agree with you. He has not fulfilled his potential defensively at all. I think he could be a way better defender. I think he could be more switchable. What happened to the guy who was like a menace protecting the rim 4 or 5 years ago? He was everywhere around the rim. He could jump really high. He was helping. I can picture John Collins, somebody getting to the basket and John Collins coming in as the help protector and swatting that shit. Like, he doesn't do that at all anymore. With that being said, he is shooting the hell out of the ball this year. And if the Jazz can get any form of penetration, we know what the Knicks are going to try to do. And I could see John Collins hurting the Knicks if he has a shot going that night, because his direct matchup is Julius Randle. So, like, he's going to get threes. if the Jazz can get into the paint, he's going to get threes. The Walker Kessler start really surprises me, just because I figured he had established his floor last season as a rookie. I will say, though, I never got Walker Kessler from a ceiling perspective. And I say this right now as someone who thinks these first 15 games are pretty much noise and thinks he's going to figure it out and he's going to fall back closer to his floor or to what he established, his baseline that he established last season. What can he be in the NBA? Like, he's a less athletic Mitchell Robinson. I don't get these centers that aren't super athletic and can't shoot. I just think they're kind of going to go unless they can bring something else to the table. Like Bam Adebayo, he can't shoot threes. I'm perfectly fine with Bam Adebayo not being able to shoot threes because he can hit a 10 to 15 footer and he's an elite passer. He's got those dribble handoffs down. I don't see that from Walker Kessler. I don't see him as a hub at all. So I think that I just don't think his ceiling has ever been or is super high. And I never really understood the conversation about him.
Yeah, it is a disappointing start. And, I share my opinions on the Jazz. I just think as far as it relates to the Knicks specifically, they should dominate this team. There's no chance that the Jazz should be able to come in and sneak one by against this Knicks team. I just can't see it, and I don't think it's going to happen. And if it did happen, to be honest, at this stage with no Lauri Markkanen, Clarkson back and playing terrible, they're as bad as their defense has been lately. They just gave up 140 points per 100 possession performance against OKC. 2 games against that, 140 points per 100 possessions defense against Dallas. Sandwiched in between a performance against the Clippers, their best performance in a while, 120 points per 100 possessions against the defense is too bad. The defense is too bad. The offense is not good. No Lowry. You're not going to get beaten by John Collins shooting shooting threes. Like it just can't happen. So if the Knicks lost this game, it'd be the worst loss of the season for sure for me, easily worse than the New Orleans Pelicans loss. Like I just think this Jazz team is aimless, and until they get Kessler back right, and I think he'll obviously bounce back. I believe in regression for most of these guys, and I think he is good as a rim protector and a finisher. I think he'll bounce back. Obviously, they get Lauri at some point. Clarkson kind of needs those guys. He can't just be the alpha creator, scorer, and do everything guy. So they get a few of those things going. They'll get a little bit back on track, but in the state of the team now, it's just not. They're not a viable contender against a team like the Knicks. They shouldn't be, in my opinion.
There's one more Jazz player I think we can talk about that I'm personally excited about, and that's Taylor Hendricks. The Jazz took him, I think, 9th, but definitely inside the top 10, 8th or 9th, out of UCF. And I feel like he's XJ's dream player. He's a power forward who provides elite rim protection. He's got really good length and athleticism. He shot over 40% from 3 at UCF. Right now, he's only played 83 minutes in the NBA, but he's been playing lately. He's averaged 16 minutes per game in the 5 games he has played. He's averaging almost 2 steals and 2 blocks per 36, and he's putting up over 6 threes per 36. All of this from the power forward position. If I was the Jazz and I was Will Hardy, especially as long as Lauri Markkanen's out, I would just throw this guy out there, and I would just say, I wouldn't do the Kevin Knox thing and just be like, figure it out. But Will Hardy isn't David Fizdale. He's a good coach. He's a good coach who runs structured sets and has a good baseline foundation that he's establishing in Utah on both ends of the court. And I think Taylor Hendricks can be a huge part of that. I know I just talked about John Collins, being a potentially big part of this matchup against the Knicks. I don't think Collins should be a hindrance to Taylor Hendricks seeing minutes. I understand you want Tigers to earn their stripes. I get that. But the longer this season goes on and this Jazz team is as woeful as it is, I think you take a guy in the top 10, you have to not see what you have in him, but you have to just let him get his feet wet in the NBA. Because I think these things, like he's shooting below 30% from 3. That's not good. But he has potential as a 3-point shooter in the NBA. We saw that in college. Let him get more comfortable shooting off the catch from this distance in the NBA. That the only way you're going to get a guy like this comfortable is with him playing in on-court reps. I feel very, very confident saying that. And then these intangible's the wrong word, but these non-scoring related things, almost 2 blocks and 2 steals per 36 in the NBA from the power forward position is really, really high level stuff. And again, I know it's less than 100 minutes. I'm not saying this stuff is going to stick, but I really like what I've seen, and I hope we see more of it going forward just as an NBA fan, because the Jazz have to be trying to build something, and I have to imagine that Taylor Hendricks is going to be a part of that.
I love that you brought up Taylor Hendricks, because I don't watch very much college basketball. I'm not a big college basketball fan. These guys don't come on my radar until, the tournament a little bit, and then when they're getting ready for the draft, I'll do some pre-draft, like kind of mini scouting stuff, but nothing too serious. I don't really follow these guys until they get into the NBA. But Taylor Hendricks went to UCF, which is relatively close to where I live in Florida, and I'm familiar with guys who play at the state schools in Florida. I went to a couple state schools in Florida, UF and UNF. So I've seen Taylor Hendricks play as a freshman at UCF, and he can absolutely shoot. There's no way that he's going to shoot 28% or whatever he is shooting so far this season. Like, he is a legitimate shooter. And the fact that, like you said, Geoff, the things he can do on the defensive end, creating havoc, blocks and steals, really important defensive metrics and impact. I think he can do something for that. Like, the thing I'm most concerned about for Taylor Hendricks is his creation ability. In college, he averaged 1 assist and 1 turnover, I think, per game or something like that. And he's just not a good passer. We talked about Lauri Markkanen being like having a weaker ability to pass. I think Lauri can be a connector. He's not going to like create and open shots for guys and throw cross court skip passes a bunch, but he can, make the easy pass and the good pass. I'm not sure about that for Taylor Hendricks. That's the only thing that I feel like could be a weakness in his game. So, but I would like to see him play and get more playing time and in real live game action. I think he's only played like 5 games this year. So, yeah, I totally agree with the take. I want to shift over to talking about the Phoenix Suns. So we've talked about the Phoenix Suns a little bit this season. Phoenix they've been kind of coasting. Like, I don't really know for sure what's going on with Phoenix. The last several games, they have kind of just been mediocre, both on offense and defense. They kind of just been floating around. I don't know that they are full throttle, like on the gas right now. Offensively, the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games have all been below league average in terms of offensive rating, offensive effectiveness. So we're still seeing Booker and KD do what they do, and they've been consistent when they're out there. Booker has missed a bunch of games. KD has surprisingly been pretty durable. He's played 19 of 22 games so far. What are your thoughts on the Suns and the fact that Bradley Beal, I believe, is coming back? If he doesn't play today, we're recording this on a Tuesday. If he doesn't play tonight, he might probably play against the Knicks. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on the Suns, what they've been doing, and the coming return of Bradley Beal?
So, I always laugh looking at the Wowie combinations for teams like this. For anyone who doesn't know what Wowie is, it basically is, there's this site pvpstats.com, and it basically just, you can put any combination of players and for any team, and it spits out how they do with every single combination of those two players. So like for Durant and Booker, I put their Wowie in, and it has Durant on, Booker off, Durant and Booker on, Durant and Booker off, Booker on. It has all 4 of those. The Suns are really bad when Kevin Durant and Devin Booker don't play. And like, some people might look at that and be like, oh, wow, the Suns, they might be in trouble. Their supporting cast isn't that good. Guess what? This team is fucked if Kevin Durant or Devin Booker gets hurt. Like, that's what this team is. They're Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, and to a lesser degree, Bradley Beal. But like, even without Beal, I think this Suns team has a chance. I've never really thought super highly of Bradley Beal. I don't think he's a make or break player in that way. I think that Durant and Booker, and especially with what Nurkic is bringing this year, I think even though I think the Blazers did what was best for them in turning Nurkic into Ayton, and I've kind of liked what Ayton's done in Portland this year, I think the Suns got the more impactful player today, and more importantly, the more impactful role player next to 2 really high usage stars. Like, I think Ayton, the way he helps you, he needs the ball in his hands more than Nurkic, whereas Nurkic is just he's going to focus on rebounding. He's going to set screens. He's going to shoot the occasional 3, and never really been that high on Jusuf Nurkic, honestly, but I've liked what he's done in Phoenix so far this season. Grayson Allen, Eric Gordon, these guys are shooting the hell out of the ball. They're good supporting pieces to Booker and Durant. And so my point is that what's more interesting to me than how they're doing without Durant and Booker is how they're doing individually. And that's that they're just kind of hovering above water. And look, it's too early to make any grand proclamations, but I would expect them to be better with Booker and Durant on the court. And I've been underwhelmed by how they've performed together. Of course, Knicks fans will remember Booker coming into MSG, and that was, actually I said earlier, if the Knicks lose to the Jazz, that'll be their worst loss of the season. I think the Suns' loss was right now their worst loss of the season. No Durant, no Beal. You're playing at home. The Knicks should have won that game. That was a bad loss. Overall, I think that the Suns they need more. And so, I saw you make that face, so I'll turn it back to you. Is Bradley Beal going to be the one to give them more, or is he just kind of diminishing returns?
I'm not a big Beal guy either. Kind of similar to you. I don't know that Beal has the right skill set to really mesh with Booker and Durant. I think I love seeing these kinds of experiments in the NBA, honestly, with you put a bunch of high usage guys together. I know Booker is saying that he's really going to embrace this role where he's the point guard. He's calling himself the point guard, and he's going to be a facilitator for these other guys. Booker is a natural born scorer, man. Like Booker, that's what the guy does. He puts the ball in the hoop, and I know he's a great basketball player all around, and he can do some of the facilitation stuff, but you're not getting the impact from Devin Booker if that's what he's doing. You're not getting his true value, which is the fact that he can score and create an advantage against pretty much anyone in the NBA. You're throwing back in Bradley Beal into that mix. I'm not the biggest fan to see how that will work. In theory, all three of these guys are good passers, right? But I just don't see it meshing extremely well. I think that they all want to get their usage, and you can't have three guys all together who are like a 32 plus usage. I do want to say what I do want to talk about is Jusuf Nurkic, because I think, and I said this when the trade happened, people were acting like Nurkic was like washed up, like that wasn't an important acquisition. Like I was looking at it as like, you guys do you guys know? I mean, obviously this is a while ago. In 2019, with Portland, Jusuf Nurkic played 72 of 82 games, had a plus 6.1 EPM. That is crazy. Like you would not, like people are talking about this guy like he's an afterthought, like he's nothing, he's just a throw-in. Is this all they got for DeAndre Ayton? Let me be clear. This year, we have 6 players in the NBA with a higher than a 6.1 EPM. That's SGA, Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, LeBron James, Tyrese Halliburton, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Jusuf Nurkic had a 6.1 EPM, which would be better this year than Luka Doncic, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Trae Young, Devin Booker, Scotty Barnes, Anthony Davis. That is an incredible. It just shows what his actual ceiling is and his ability. He's had some injuries and he's had some wear and tear, which may have brought down his actual ceiling. But his defense has been really critical for this team. I think this team would be much worse without Jusuf Nurkic. He's been willing to take a role where he has a much lower usage. He is not a low usage guy. He has been around, 24, 25 usage, which is like higher than 80th percentile in the NBA. He's not a low usage guy. He's taken his usage under 20 for the first time in his entire career, including his rookie season with the Nuggets. So Jusuf Nurkic has done a ton for this team. He's still not even 30 years old. And again, like I said, I think the injuries have slowed him down a bit, but I believe that was an important asset and pickup for them. And if things are going to work, I think it's because Jusuf Nurkic is the glue to hold together the defense and to be able to take some of that backseat role, but still provide the value that he can through his rebounding, through his offensive rebounding. He is in a 90th percentile in both offensive and defensive rebounding, protecting the rim. I think he's just been a really incredible, underrated asset for them. And I'm a big Nurkic fan. I've liked him for a long time. He really just fell off due to injuries, in my opinion. But he seems to be having a bounce back year.
And to your point, all awesome points about Nurkic. Beal is the antithesis of that. Because like if you look at EPM, Durant and Booker are 10th and 12th in the NBA in EPM right now. Amazing. Like they're just two amazing basketball players. Neither has a positive defensive EPM. Like they are providing all of their impact on the offensive side of the court right now. Durant is exactly neutral, which is fine. That's above replacement level. And Booker is a small negative. I expect Booker's to improve. The only way I think Booker remains where he's at or gets worse is if this point guard thing is just such a big burden on him that he just doesn't have it defensively. But honestly, if LeBron James can have a positive defensive EPM in 2023, carrying the burden he does, there's no fucking excuse for anybody else. Like if you have a negative defensive EPM right now as a good player and you're using but I try really hard on offense as an excuse. Like, look, I know LeBron is like one of the GOATs for a reason. And like, it's probably not fair to use him as a standard. But the dude's almost 40 years old. Like if he can do it at 40, I promise you, Devin Booker has the energy at 26 years old.
LeBron's gonna have a positive EPM at 43 years old. So I don't know that we can compare LeBron to anyone who's ever played the game, honestly. But I hear your point. But it's just like this is the ultimate apples to oranges, LeBron to anyone.
Yeah,
honestly.
But my point with all this is, you talk about Nurkic being the glue guy. Great point. And I think the reason he's the glue guy is because he can provide all of his impact without getting while Durant and Booker are their best selves. That's what you want in a glue guy or a role player next to a star like this. You look at Durant and you look at Booker, and they're combined almost an 11 EPM offensively, and then they're combined in the negative defensively. And you're like, who is the best third banana for this team? Oh, I know, Bradley Beal. Like he's the worst defender of the three, and he needs the ball in his hands. So like, if you let him be his best self, at best, he is going to infringe on Booker and Durant's ability to be their best offensive selves, and he's not helping you on defense at all. This isn't to say that Beal is a net negative, because like if you just do, take Beal and replace him with somebody else who's just, a net neutral offensive player, but they let Booker and Durant be maximized, the whole is still going to be greater with Beal, but it's not as much greater as people would think. Like if I looked somebody, not even a Suns fan, just an NBA fan, and I was like, I actually don't think the Suns are going to get that much better when you replace Grayson Allen with Bradley Beal, I'd probably get laughed out of the room. Like that would probably be considered a laughable statement. I don't think it's that laughable. I think that Grayson Allen spacing and never having the ball in his hands and letting Booker and Durant just pretty much do whatever they want all the time is pretty close to Beal replacing those Durant and Booker possessions. And, I feel free to tell me I'm wrong. Maybe I'm overrating Grayson Allen's gravity. But I don't think that's great. That's that crazy.
No, I don't think it's that crazy at all. I pretty much am in lockstep with you. I think that Beal is not the right third guy for those two. I think this is a matter of he's the best guy that they could get, and they felt like they needed to add someone to really take them over the top, and he was the guy who was available. And so I don't hate that they did it and are trying to work it out. And I know Booker does seem like the kind of guy who's willing to compromise and willing to do what's best for the team. He really does seem that way. And so I think they're all coming in with the right attitude, and potentially they'll be able to make it work. But in a vacuum, in an ideal world, is this the guy who you would add to those two? Like, definitely not. No, definitely not.
Grayson Allen's shooting 47% from three.
Grayson Allen's shooting out the absolute lights out. It's incredible. And to be honest, I could see their offense getting worse with Beal replacing Grayson Allen. Like, I could absolutely see it.
And so their defense isn't going to look, Grayson Allen. I'm not. Maybe he's your guy this episode. No, I know they have your guy. I know they have your guy Goodwin, but no, I know Grayson Allen isn't that good defensively, but Beal's been really bad his whole career, like really, really bad.
Yeah.
Do I believe on a possession to possession basis that they're the same? No, I think Beal has a higher ceiling on an individual possession, but on the whole, I just don't think that going from from Allen to Beal is just going to move their defensive rating, multiple points.
I don't think so.
Which it has to, if we can. Would it surprise you at all if just Gordon, Allen, Booker, Durant, Nurkic ends up being their best 5-man lineup?
No, I think I would anticipate that to be their best 5-man lineup. I would anticipate that. I honestly don't. I mean, we'll see. I think Beal, the thing is, Beal has shown that he can lock in defensively, especially on the ball. He has done that at points throughout his career when he's been really challenged, and it's like we got to get a stop. I've seen Beal go to really high levels defensively. As far as a consistent possession by possession basis off the ball, having to have that focus and lock in defensively, I just don't see it from him. And so and like you said, Grayson Allen's not an incredible defender, but he has been solid throughout his career. I think EPM doesn't like him this year, but I think he's solid, and I think, his shooting has more than made up for it, and I think his defense is going to come around. I'm not going to say the same thing about Bradley Beal, so it's more of a wait and see for me. Real quick,
question
yeah,
for you.
You asked the question. Go ahead.
Before we move on.
Sure.
Human element aside, why not just make Beal the sixth man? Like that has to be
human element aside. Yeah, you would do that. If only you could put that aside.
So do you agree that would be the best version of this team? Like, and I think that especially with Beal's injury history, if you just said, we're going to play you 25 really high quality minutes a night, and you're going to have the ball in your hands a ton, you're going to get all the reps when Booker sits. You're going to be our main initiator without Booker on the floor. And we're just going to ask you to be an additive piece next to Booker and Durant for minimal minutes each game. I think that's the highest ceiling version of this Suns team.
I agree with you. Listen, if you could even start Beal and pull him after 3 minutes. Like if that's important to him, the idea that he's a starter and, whatever the case may be, that is clearly very important to a lot of players. And you can't take that human element out. If you want to start him for 3 minutes and then pull him early and put him back in when Booker comes out, why would you not do that? Like, I just think that's the best way he can have the biggest impact on this team, is to have the ball in his hands, to have the green light, and, to be able to maintain a high level of offensive output when one of your super true alphas goes off the court. Like, it just feels like common sense. It feels like something they should do. I don't think it's something they're going to do. I think they're going to all have these three guys playing together, sharing a ton of court time. I think one of them will always be on the court, which it's pretty hard to not have that be the case. You would have to intentionally not do that in order for it not to happen. But I think they're going to share the court a ton together, and I think they're going to start and close together as well. So we'll see how that works.
I think that Vogel deserves at least a little bit of time to see how he does the rotation. I know it didn't end well in LA. I'm not sure how much of that is his fault. I think it's pretty much entirely the fault of Pelinka for making that Russell Westbrook trade, which was totally unnecessary. But look, when the Lakers won the championship, Vogel's the guy who said, all right, Dwight Howard, you're not playing this entire series. JaVale McGee, you're not playing this entire series against the Rockets. Look, you can only give a guy so much credit when he has LeBron James and bubble Anthony Davis, and we can talk about this some other time, but Anthony Davis, he was dominant against the Pacers in that in-season championship game. He has not been that player since the bubble. That bubble run is one of the most special. He shot 60% from 10 to 25 feet or something like that. Dude couldn't miss and was a beast defensively. My point is that you can only give the head coach so much credit when Anthony Davis and LeBron James are playing like they were in that bubble playoffs. But at the same time, I thought he did a really good job coaching on a series-to-series basis. And I trust him to figure out that, okay, these guys need to be staggered, and I'm curious to see how he staggers them.
Yep, full agreement here. The last thing I want to say, I just want to ask you a quick question. You get one guess at it, one answer. We're talking about additive players. I'm looking at the top 25 in offensive EPM currently in this season so far. Who is the only player in the top 25 in offensive EPM who has lower than a 25 usage? Can you guess? There's only one guy. Speaking of additive players who might mesh well with
my EPM. EPM is a rate stat, right? It's not volume.
Yeah, I'm just talking about EPM, raw EPM. Not,
no, I know. I'm just saying.
It's not. It's a rate stat.
Okay. I mean, I guess I have a bailout guess just because I know you love. And we talked about. I guess it's probably Markkanen.
It is Markkanen. Yeah. it is Lauri Markkanen, the only guy in the top 25 with lower than a 25 usage. That guy has a lot of non-lube and a lot of lube as well. So he can work with almost any star. I really believe that. Even a combination of stars. Speaking of stars, we go to LA. We're talking about the Clippers now. The Clippers have been very up and down, one might say. It's taking them some time to adjust to having James Harden on the team. That would take any team time to adjust to, and having Kawhi and PG and all of that. It is taking some time, but their offense has looked a lot better recently. At first, it was not looking good. It's starting to really gel a little bit. We've seen them put up big numbers against the Sacramento Kings. A couple weeks ago, they put up a big number against the Portland Trail Blazers. Their defense was not good in that game. The trio, or the what is four? What's the opposite, or not opposite, but what's the word for three is a trio and four is a quartet? Is that right?
Quartet or quadrant?
Quadrant. That's interesting. I'm gonna go with quartet. The quartet of Kawhi, George, Harden, and Westbrook. What are you seeing from that quartet, and how are you feeling about the Clippers? They just feel like a confusing team right now, and they're still trying to work things out. But like, where do you see them going, and do you see them being like a threat as much as the player talent that they have would suggest that they are?
So first of all, I don't see them as a quartet anymore. I think Ty Lue made that decision very early after they struggled out of the gate. I think Russ I'm not going to say has been cast aside, but he's not playing as many minutes. He's not closing. And the minutes he does play, they haven't been going super well. Harden's been better recently. Harden is pretty much just a full-on point guard these days who shoots threes and occasionally gets to the rim. That's fine. He's still a very effective offensive player. This team is going to live and die by George and Kawhi Leonard. And they've been doing that all season. You look at the on-off data. The Clippers are winning everybody's off-court minutes except for George and Kawhi. They are basically tied together. When George is off the court, the Clippers are being outscored by 8.3 points per 100 possessions. When the Clippers are off the court, when Kawhi is off the court, the Clippers are being outscored by 6.7 points per 100 possession. Those are by far the two worst numbers on the team. Like I said, everybody else is a positive. And then when those two guys are on the court, it's 8.5 per 100 for George and 8 per 100 for Kawhi. So in total, these guys, their net difference is around 15 points for each of them. Nobody else is even remotely close. Even Harden in the minutes he's been there. I think that one really good non-analytical thing that Harden's done for George and Kawhi is he's alleviated the initiating burden on them because he has the ball in his hands so much. I think it lets George and Kawhi pick and choose when they're going to, give full effort on the offensive side of the ball. And it allows them to be more effective on the whole in a single game. But I think it's also allowing them to play each night. They're not missing games. Like, they're out there pretty much every night, which is huge for them. And then the last thing I want to say about Harden is he's shooting off the catch a lot more. I actually watched the Clippers-Blazers game last night, and he hit a couple of corner threes without catching the ball and shooting without hesitation. I've really liked what I've seen from Harden in LA. I think that the team absolutely has a championship ceiling. I think that Zubac is a fine center. He's been really good recently. He was getting buried early in the season. When the Clippers were off to that poor start and they just didn't want to go at any of their stars. They didn't want to go at Russ, and so all you have left is Zubac. But he's been playing really great lately. He did a really nice job on Nikola Jokic, who's been kind of struggling the last couple of games, but that started with Zubac, who just seems to be a nightmare matchup for Jokic. Honestly, just somebody who can match his size and doesn't really foul.
I gotta stop you. I can't have the. I mean, you stopped me with the THT talk. I can't have Ivanka Zubac being a nightmare matchup for Nikola Jokic. We can't be saying these kinds of phrases on Hot Hand Theory. So I will let you continue, but I just need to scratch that from the record. No,
you're just trying to get
Zubac is not a nightmare matchup for Nikola Jokic. But I hear your point. Your point is still taken. Well heard by me, I'll say.
How about a relative nightmare matchup?
Relatively speaking, I'll give you that.
Okay. So, there's always a scale for anything. For anything in the world, there's a scale of 0 to 100. Even, Jokic matchups. Even if nobody in the world is a tough matchup for Jokic, somebody is the toughest.
Correct, but if that's a nightmare for Jokic, that's like the nightmare where you are, I don't know, your teeth fall out or something. It's like, oh, that's kind of scary, but it's not the nightmare where you like fall off a cliff and die. Like those are fundamentally different kinds of nightmares.
I just think that like Jokic would rather face even Anthony Davis than Zubac.
Really, I don't know about that.
I think that Zubac's frame, Jokic isn't blowing past people off the bounce, and maybe I'm overreacting to one game, but what I saw when I watched that film, I saw a dude who was able to stay in front of Jokic, but also wasn't moved when Jokic tried to use his power.
Who do you
think? Look, I'm not saying.
Who do you think weighs more, Anthony Davis or Zubac?
I would assume Zubac.
Yeah, according to the NBA most recent weight data, Anthony Davis is 253, Zubac is 240. So Davis has 13 pounds on him.
What's their height difference?
Zubac is 2 inches taller at 7'1" to 80, 6'10".
No fucking way. No way. I don't care about
they
that.
have Zubac as a lanky, tall, lanky defender.
No way. That's bullshit.
Compared to Davis being a sturdy, low center of
No
gravity defender.
Whatever the weight difference is, you watch that. Zubac isn't getting moved by those Jokic bumps, and Anthony Davis does. All right, Anthony Davis gets tossed around like a rag.
That's fair enough. Everybody right about that.
Everybody watched those Western Conference Finals last season, and look, I think Anthony Davis is really good, but
I guess my point is more so like, can we attribute it to Zubac being a Jokic nightmare, or Jokic just not really having it all together early in the season?
I think both. Look, I'm fine. I overspoke with nightmare. I just think that he's think that he's uniquely equipped to if I was the Clippers, I would have Zubac on Jokic every minute that Jokic is in the game, and I wouldn't send doubles because I think Jokic is at his most effective as a passer. And if Jokic is going to score 40 points, if he's going to be really effective from inside 15 feet on a given night, but you're not helping off shooters, I think that's your best chance of beating the Nuggets. And I think that if you're going to deploy that type of defense, you need to have somebody who can hang with Jokic and cannot be overpowered by him. And, to relate this back to the Knicks, because the Knicks are going to have 2 games against the Nuggets. Look, somebody out there, if you want to record this and save this for when the Knicks play the Nuggets, I promise you that when Mitchell Robinson is in the game on Jokic, and Jokic has 2 feet in the paint, with his back to the basket, the Knicks are going to send doubles, and Jokic is going to find a flurry of shooters. And we're going to be annoyed. We're going to, as Knicks fans are going to be annoyed. They're going to say, how are these guys so open? And I'm going to say, because of fucking doubling, and Jokic is going to find the shooter every single time. You can't do that. I've never understood it. Look, there are, like I was just saying, there are ranges to this, and there are less absurd, more absurd. It's less absurd with Jokic than it is with like Draymond Green. Dude, when Draymond Green has his back to the basket, 15 feet from the basket, and we're sending fucking doubles, I want to like throw something through the wall. He's never even looking to shoot. And he finds one of those cutters or a 3-point shooter every single time. And it's like, it's like a Tom Brady 7-yard slant, 7-yard out on 3rd and 5. It's like, how do you not know this is coming after 15 years? He's never once looked to score with his back to the basket from 15 feet. And yet there are still guys that are like, oh God, he's got a smaller guy on him. What if Draymond Green exploits that? He's never exploited it once. Stop it. So yes, I get it. I get that. I get, Jokic isn't Draymond Green. He can exploit a smaller player. But you have to pick your poison. This idea that you can just stop everything, that like, oh, well, if the guys just execute the scheme right, if they just double and then recover on the shooters, then it's perfect defense. No, you're not going to execute the scheme right every single time. Doubling and scrambling to recover is a really, really hard thing to do that only few players can do. It's not just this thing that if you try hard, anybody can do it. Immanuel Quickley is an incredibly special player because of his ability to stunt and recover. Derek White is an incredibly special player because of his ability to time his stunt and then recover to a shooter. These are not normal things that anybody can do just through sheer willpower. These are very hard things. And if you try to do it to Jokic, you're going to get killed. You're going to get burned. Let him try to score 40 points. Turn him into a scorer. I feel very strongly that that's your best way to defend a guy like that. And let's bring this back to the Clippers. I think they have somebody who is a glue guy in the sense of he can provide impact like that. And you have guys like Harden and Westbrook and Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, and he does not infringe on their ability to be their best selves one iota. I really like what Zubac has done lately.
Listen, that was a tremendous rant. I fully in agreement with you. And anyone who knows me knows I hate double teams. I think it makes offense too easy. I think when you double and it's just like part of the plan, it's not like some random thing that happens, out of nowhere when the offense is not expecting it occasionally. When that's like your plan is to double and send doubles and send help and help and recover, you are making offense so easy for your opponent. It is literally, and you're talking about Nikola Jokic, who could have one of the best passers of all time, not for a center, not for one of the greatest passers in the history of basketball at all positions. Somebody who's tall, who is an amazing, accurate passer, and whose court vision is unparalleled. By sending doubles and traps to him, you are making the game extremely easy for him. I'm in full agreement with you. And I honestly, I was giving you a hard time about the Zubac thing, but if Zubac can hold his own against Jokic, and only give up mid-rangers, if Jokic shoots like 50% from the mid-range or something like that and just takes a bunch of shots, you're winning. That's the best you can hope for against Nikola Jokic. So I think it's a tremendous point. I want to talk about the Los Angeles Lakers.
Akshay, before we spring to the Lakers, do you think the Clippers can win a championship? I don't mean zero. I know nobody's 0.0, but like realistically, do you think the Clippers are? No. You don't think they're title contenders? What do you think is holding them back?
I think Harden is not. Harden has been good, but I think he's dropped off too much. And I think that I could imagine, fully healthy Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are obviously a threat at all times, but the top of each conference is too strong to me. I don't think they're going to beat the Nuggets. Honestly, I don't think they're going to beat the team that we're about to talk about, the Lakers. And on the East, they're not beating the Celtics. They're not beating the Bucks to me. James Harden is, again, like I said, he's been pretty good. He's shooting a ton of threes, shooting a high percentage from three. The guy doesn't get to the rim anymore. He used to get to the rim a ton. He almost is never at the rim, which is a huge downturn in terms of his career. In terms of frequency at the rim and shooting percentage at the rim has been down the last several years. And I feel like that's a big difference in terms of his efficacy. Also, his usage is like 19, which, if you know anything about James Harden, that is the lowest of his career, including his rookie and sophomore seasons. We've seen his usage spike around like 35 to like 40 that one year in Houston. He's at 19. He's, like you said, he's just purely a facilitator and kind of catch and shoot guy. His free throw rate's relatively similar to what it's been the last couple of years, but this is just not the James Harden that we've known, and it's really just a Paul George, Kawhi Leonard backed Clippers team with a slightly better point guard situation, but not like anything substantial. So to me, that's just not enough to get it done. The West is too strong, and on the East they're too strong as well, in my opinion. But yep, let us turn gears. We have a few minutes left. We can talk about the Lakers. I mean, I'll let you kind of go. You've been posting for Hot Hand Theory about LeBron, and you've been talking about LeBron, some of the stuff that he's been doing, and just acknowledging the complete insanity of it, of what's happening right now. Like, it's very difficult to contextualize for people, like how absurd what we're seeing is happening. I'm not sure how to do it besides, because there's no comparison. It's not like you could be like, look at this guy in football. It's like more than what Brady has done as a quarterback. It's more than any other player that we've seen in baseball. I mean, we've seen some guys play pitchers in baseball till like they're like 45 or something like that and be pretty good. In basketball, it's a different story. You cannot be 39 and doing what LeBron James is doing. It's just too based on athleticism to be able to have the impact that he's having. And LeBron James currently owns a plus 21.2 on-off differential, which is obviously in the 99th percentile of the NBA. The Lakers defense is 11.7 points per 100 better on defense when LeBron's on the court, and 9.4 points better on offense when LeBron James is on the court. The efficiency on both ends is skyrockets. LeBron is somehow having one of the best years of his career so far. I was laughing because it's stupid. It's stupid that I even said this, but right now he's having one of the best seasons of his career. Definitely, probably the best one in the last 8 or so years since he left Cleveland. So that's the story of the Lakers to me. That's why the Lakers have been good. The Lakers have played sort of like a dominant team recently, and it all comes down to what LeBron is doing, which is just remarkable. So anything you want to say, you can take it away.
The Lakers are getting outscored by 12 points per 100 possessions when LeBron doesn't play. That's a pretty good place to start. They haven't been good at all when he doesn't play. And, this is why Wowie combinations are so valuable, because I'd bet that people who don't watch a lot of Lakers are like, oh, they must be doing that rotation thing where, Anthony Davis and LeBron play a ton together and their bench is just bad. No. When LeBron sits and Anthony Davis plays, the Lakers are being outscored by almost 6 points per 100 possessions. They're getting pretty nuked when Anthony Davis is out there without LeBron. On the other hand, when LeBron's out there without Anthony Davis, they're outscoring opponents by almost 10 points per 100 possessions. 16-point difference when all you do is replace when you swap Anthony Davis and LeBron James.
That's ridiculous.
This isn't even Anthony Davis hate. This is just LeBron James is an alien. This doesn't make any sense. Like, one of my favorite articles, if anybody gets bored, Deadspin wrote this article like 10 years ago that says, the title is like, Barry Bonds was an alien sent to Earth to break all of baseball. And it has all these crazy stats that you could never in your life imagine. Like, here's a really crazy one for you, actually, that I know off the top of my hand. What do you think Barry Bonds' career on base percentage was when the count got to 3-0?
When it got to 3-0?
Right. So, like, obviously you can still make an out when the count goes to 3-0. You're not
his on base percentage, maybe 700.
It was 910 in his career.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
He never even accidentally made an out. Like, he was just if you got down 3-0, he was just like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, that's
dude, I thought I was guessing high at 700. I was like, I'm gonna show Geoff. He thinks this is gonna be good. I'm gonna say something crazy. How about 700?
there's just so many
that's absurd.
And this guy was like, oh my God, I was wrong. He batted 400 and his on-base percentage was 967 on 3-0 counts. 967.
In his career?
In his career.
That doesn't even make sense.
I don't have an answer for you. He basically was a lock to get on base if the count got to 3-0.
That's insane. Yeah, I've never heard of something like that before. That was crazy.
Yeah. LeBron James is the NBA's Barry Bonds. Like, he's breaking the sport. Every single thing he does, it's just, I don't even know how to put a superlative to it he's just, I don't know. I texted you the other night and I was like, I think he's a social experiment. Like, I don't even get the greatest of all time conversation anymore. I honestly don't. I mean, it just has to be framed in a relative to your competition way. That's the only, for me, that's all there is left. Because this idea, like, if you just think that, okay, well, you can only play against who you play against. And to me, this guy set the standard, like Michael Jordan set the standard. He was so much better than everybody. And then, you have the what's the word I'm totally blanking on, resume perspective of, he never lost in the finals, these things. I still don't understand why losing in the first round is better than losing in the finals. I don't think I'll ever understand that, but whatever. If these things matter to you, just from a basketball perspective, I think I've moved beyond the point of being able to understand it. Cause this idea that if you stuck LeBron James in 1991 and you're like, oh, but the hand checking, LeBron James would, like, what he's doing right now wouldn't compare to what he would have done in the 80s or the 90s. It would have been an even bigger joke. And the idea that it wouldn't have been is just, I can't say I understand anybody who thinks that way or why anybody would think that way besides just pure hatred or bias against the guy. And to be clear, I have on 2 different off seasons convinced myself that LeBron James was going to be a Knick only for him to spit in the Knicks' face. So, like, it's not like I love the guy, you know, like I'm not out here, you know, standing for LeBron James. I can only watch what's happening in front of me, and it's just truly remarkable. 65% true shooting percentage this season, his highest since 2014. And this is a guy who can't get to the basket even half as good as he could 6 years ago. But somehow he just woke up and was like, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'll just shoot like 40% from 3. That'll make up for my inability to get to the rim.
That's what I was going to say. The only thing that I will say, it's obviously it takes nothing away from how ridiculous it is. He is shooting 41% from 3, which would be the highest of his career. He's not going to shoot 41% from 3 this year. He's just not going to. So he'll come down to around 36, 35%, and we'll see some of his impact tail away with that as well. But, still, regardless of that, he still has an incredible offensive and defensive impact, and it's just remarkable. So
that game against the Pelicans, like, LeBron is amazing enough, but when you juxtapose it against Zion Williamson, it just, to me, became even more incredible because he made Zion, like, all the Zion Williamson shit that came out after the game about him being out of shape and him not caring about basketball. I mean, we saw I don't know if anybody watched Pelicans T-Wolves last night, but the Pelicans just dismantled the Timberwolves. Just absolutely dismantled them, and Zion was amazing. And nobody talked about it. Nobody talked about it because people are still attached to the narrative that Zion Williamson, and look, I'm not saying he's in perfect shape. He can absolutely do better. He should do better. And I hope he does. I hope he does for the sport of basketball because he too is an amazing talent. But I think there's always been kind of this idea that, like, oh, well, if anybody had LeBron James's body, they could do that. LeBron James is one of the most skilled players in the history of the sport. And, like, have people been watching him? Like, this idea that, like, oh, anybody could be fast and strong. And no, he's an incredible finisher with both hands around the basket. He can get to any spot on the floor. He can shoot from the mid-range. He's hit threes officially in his career. He has elite vision. Like, I posted from the Hot Hand Theory account. I was like, yeah, Zion Williamson is kind of like LeBron if you took away LeBron's shooting and passing and processing, which, these things matter,
I will say, which would still be an elite NBA player.
Right. It was still, I mean.
It's crazy, but yeah. I think that's totally right.
And the thing is, people might find this a little bit, over the top or whatever, but I'm not sure how you talk about the Lakers without talking about LeBron because he's so paramount to everything they do.
It's the LeBron show. It's the LeBron show. Los Angeles is the LeBron show. There's no Lakers to speak of if we're not talking about LeBron. Like, it is, they are not a good team without LeBron, even with AD anchoring them. LeBron is doing everything for them. If he stays healthy, my last thought on them, if he stays healthy, I do think they have a chance at the title, and I have them as more of a contender than I do the Clippers based on seeing this LeBron and the heights that Anthony Davis is still able to get to. We saw in the in-season tournament game, that kind of Anthony Davis is quite frankly unstoppable, and we've seen what he did in the bubble as well. So he can reach those heights. LeBron is at this steady level of complete, utter dominance that makes them a contender to me no matter what. So that's where I am with the Lakers.
Is there any precedence to what's happened to Anthony Davis from 10 to 20 feet? Can you think of anything like that? Russell Westbrook, maybe?
Was he that good? Was Westbrook a
really Westbrook
good shooter from
Westbrook in OKC was an elite mid-range player and an elite free throw shooter. Like, he shot 90% plus from
right.
He was a great free throw shooter. He operated from and then one day he woke up and was like, yeah, I can't shoot anymore. And I don't really understand why that happened. Anthony Davis has fallen off a totally different clip. He's shooting like 22% from mid-range this year.
Is he? I don't.
Yeah.
I'm seeing 36.4, which is still
Okay.
horrifyingly bad, but yeah,
Is it possible he made a couple in that? Oh no, the Pacers game wouldn't count.
yeah, yeah.
Maybe like 22% from like 50. There's some range where
There's
he's
a
just,
range where he's shooting that badly, but you don't think? Do you not just think that that's some early season variance? I mean, he's played 22 games. Things can balance out a little bit since that from there. But yeah, his shooting it has been just a progressive just descent, which is kind of weird. I don't know why. He's 30 years old, but at the same time, if he does what he did defensively against against Indiana, like, he's still a force defensively, still one of the best defensive players in the NBA, and that's never fallen off at this point.
I feel an obligation because we talked about it a little bit with Mitchell Robinson earlier, and then I talked about him with Zubats. Anthony Davis's recoverability is nobody else in the league has what he has. You remember that block that Giannis had on Ayton on the alley-oop in the finals?
Yeah,
that
vividly.
amazing recovery block.
Yeah.
One of the great plays, honestly, in NBA history, given the timing of that block. For those who can't picture it, Giannis was basically in one of those 1-on-2 situations that we see Mitchell Robinson in all the time. And he was up fairly high to contest a floater and mid-range shot. And then the guy threw what should have been a pretty easy lob to DeAndre Ayton waiting in the dunker spot. And Anthony Davis, Giannis Antetokounmpo turned around and on a dime, like, jumped and blocked the alley-oop dunk. It was remarkable. Anthony Davis has these recoveries all the time where you're like, oh, well, he's going to have to choose the lesser of two evils. And it's like, oh, wait, actually, no, he doesn't. He can just guard
both. Yeah.
He's an incredible defender. Yeah. And as much as I do agree with what you said and the point I was making about how everything is about LeBron, I sort of think that LeBron is going to do what he does. Like, the Lakers got swept by the Nuggets last season. LeBron was great. LeBron was really good in that series. And I think that if you can count on LeBron's production being consistent and just being there, then actually the X factor is Anthony Davis. Because if Anthony Davis just plays like he did last season, I'm not sure they can win a championship. I think LeBron is just too old to do it by himself. He needs guys to make threes, and he needs a second star. But if Anthony Davis plays like we just saw him playing against Indiana in that in-season tournament final, if he plays like he did in the bubble, they can win a championship. And I think they might even be the second or third favorite. Boston's the clear favorite to me. But I do think that they can win a championship with Anthony Davis. Because Anthony Davis in this star role, the Anthony Davis we saw against Indiana or in the bubble, is a perfect co-star with current LeBron. Just absolutely perfect. Totally they couldn't correlate more. They couldn't be more synergetic. They both can be the best versions of themselves playing next to each other. And the Lakers really need that from Anthony Davis if they're going to win a championship.
I think that's 100% accurate. Well said. I agree with you on the Lakers' chances. I didn't expect this out of LeBron. If we get this LeBron, I definitely have them in the top three of title contenders with the Nuggets and the Celtics. But yeah, that was extremely well said, and I might add well heard by me, if I should say so myself. But yeah, this was a tremendous episode. I got to run. This was great. We kept it to about an hour and a half, which is amazing for us. We are very long-winded folks over here. But hopefully you enjoyed the pod and got a little bit of something out of it. Please leave a like. Please subscribe. We are trying to grow our YouTube channel and just be a bigger platform to talk more analytics ball with you guys. So it has been great, and this has been Hot Hand Theory.